Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the path.
Hey, that's my line. Org, I think it's Org. I don't do this.
Coming to you live from Johnston proper, in the middle of Iowa, and we have a whiz bang of a show. Now,
man,
it's hard to define whiz bang because Ben's not here, and he would use really big words.
I can't even spell it.
That no one actually understands, making Dan and I the dumbest fellows in the room. So to replace Ben, we brought in people smarter than us as well. So Eddie Andrews is in. We're gonna have a conversation with him about a plethora of things, and they're all gonna be happy and joyful. I've been guaranteed. So we're definitely gonna fire that up. Dan, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
For both of you guys.
Yeah.
So I was watching this documentary, and it had to do with social media, and I realized that I've been struggling a lot with my kids. Actually, my daughter makes fun of me the most. Is no matter what I say happened, I'm like, hey, the peach tree lost a limb or whatever, and she goes, well, if you kids wouldn't have been on your dang phones, maybe that peach tree would still be here. And I'm like, that's me, isn't it? You're making fun of me, right? Because I say this all the time, you know. I'm like a broken record with the technology. And so I was watching this documentary, and it's about social media and algorithms and whatever, and it feeds into a lot of the situations that I think that we're running into, even with the presence of actual valid problems, like actual valid justice, actual valid rights and wrongs, all those things existing. Behind the scenes is an algorithm and a news feed and a programming at a media outlet that basically feeds into whatever your anxiety is, right? And so like they on the whole, like most of the social media platforms, like they know exactly how long you stop at each photo, and they catalog it, right? And then they just start spinning it into algorithms that basically say what will keep this person on our platform longer. Well, stuff that they like or stuff that will pique their interest, right? And so like the more that you do that, the more it feeds into your own anxiety or your own view of the world, right?
Yeah,
and then we end up with what we have now, right? Where a I don't want to say an AI, but I want to say like an intentional psychological algorithm has tuned you to a point where now it's causing actual humanity issues, right? Where we're not willing to even listen to somebody if they don't come exactly from where I come from. And so all that to being said is, and maybe it's a bloated question, right? But I started thinking about it today and I didn't quite know how to answer it. Is like, how do we combat that? We can't even have reasonable discussions on the things that Eddie wants to talk about, right? The things that our world is battling with and humanity is battling with. We can't even get to the point of having an actual conversation.
So you're saying that the forces that be are putting opposing views to us, or
no,
like views,
right?
Yeah.
And so don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying that like these companies have a sinister mustache, right? And they're like, I want you to think one way or I want you to think the other. What they're saying is I want you to think your way and stay on my platform. And so
it becomes like an echo chamber.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I've heard this too, where certain news people, even people within the media, will have never heard of a story that every conservative will have heard about for 6 months.
Sure.
And it's because
and they're like, what?
Yeah.
Where'd you find? You made that up.
Yeah. This is news.
Yeah.
And we've heard about it for 8 months or 6 months.
Sure.
Because there is an echo chamber that, as you described, it permits people to hear exactly what they want to hear and almost nothing else.
Correct.
And so you actually have to be intentional to listen to the other side.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and maybe that's my question is like broad thought.
Sides plural.
Yeah. Right. Right. Is we're looking at how to even have conversations with folks that like I'm not immune to this, right? Like the same algorithm that's convinced a guy to whatever take down a sandwich shop because he thinks that there's a trafficking ring in there. You know, I get the same echo chamber as well, right? I'm in the same algorithm. I'm getting the same output. The things that I stop and look at for 0.2 seconds longer, they know that, right? And so the things that spin me up and I get put into the same bowl. And so like when we're talking about some of the things that that Eddie will be addressing, how do we begin to have that conversation with people that are in the same echo chamber, right? Like you have to battle through all this other stuff, and there has to be some way to have that conversation and have it well.
So I don't know if that's just an open-ended question or if you're just talking, but what I try to do as I'm knocking on doors and talking with people, sharing my ideas and listening to their ideas, I just listen. And as you guys know, in ministry, we get that all the time, right? So as a pastor, we have a built-in desire just to hear people,
sure,
right? And so I may have an advantage there.
Well, true.
And I got to tell you, some people just want to be heard. And so I literally have been at a door or two or three or four where I just opened the door. Hi, my name is Eddie Andrews, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And they just started unloading. They've not heard a single word that I've said. They've heard the word conservative or they heard the word Republican candidate.
Yeah.
And they're just on.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh, you're one of those.
They're off to the races.
Yeah.
And I just sit there and listen. And when they take a breath, I might say, well, have you thought about XYZ? Or thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And sometimes 15 minutes later or 16 minutes later or 20 minutes later, they say, I think I might vote for you because you've listened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've heard me and you weren't rude and you weren't, you've given some empathy there.
You think they just need a chance to get it out? You think do you think it's just a lot of pent up, no one's listening to me, and like they just need a chance to get to feel like they're being heard.
Dude, and in government, there's a reason why people in government were called ministers, because you can actually help people. Duh.
Yeah.
In government, if you do it right.
That's a travesty. That's what I was thinking as you were talking, that ministry truly is the best on-the-job training for running for some type of public office, because that's where you listen a lot, you direct, redirect.
I've said that for many times. It's like you listen, you hear problems, and then you discern what the real problem is, which isn't always the case, what you're really saying.
That's a great word.
And then you actually provide some sort of relevant solution. Boom. Are you happy? Are you happy? Who needs to be at the table? What resources do we need? All right. Everybody good? You good? You good? Boom. Problem solved.
Just like that.
And yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's all vote for Eddie Andrews November 3rd. Boom.
All right. So you're running for office in Iowa.
Yes, sir.
What are you running for? I mean, what office? Which office? There's lots of offices.
I'm running for the Iowa House.
Okay, so
District
someone's
39,
looking for how do I vote for this guy? What are you running? What position? Yeah, Iowa House.
We're sitting here late at night, 9:00 p.m., and I just wanted to sound a little bit silly, but I know people are listening. I just was going to say I'm running for president of the world.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's next, right?
Yeah, start voting. We got to get this.
Okay,
moving.
so for all the non-serious people, or for all the serious people, I was just joking. Just thought I'd throw that out there. But
I don't see president of the world. That guy's a liar.
So,
be a great name tag.
Iowa House District 39. So what that means in English is Johnston, all of Johnston, Grimes, all of Grimes, Jefferson Township, which
Jefferson, that's like north, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's like way up.
So some people, that's one of the questions I get every day. Now, where's exactly Jefferson Township? So that's pretty much the unincorporated portions of what would be Johnston.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then Urbandale Precinct 4. Again, a very popular question. Where's Precinct 4? So that's pretty much...
Guessing next to 3.
Good answer.
I mean...
That's from 86th Street and the interstate all the way to just north of the school, 1 block north of Urbandale High School, so 72nd area.
So do you feel like most people, because this is going to reveal me in the question, right? Do you feel like most people have a grasp on how local governments or state governments are set up and like what position you're filling here, right? when we talk about the state being put into districts and whatever, and it goes to a House and a Senate and all this stuff. Like, do you think people have a fairly good grasp of how all that works, or how many people are even there? I don't even know how many people are in the House. How many people are in the House?
It's a mixed bag. So there are 100 seats.
Okay.
And so if
is that based on counties?
Well, it's based upon the population. So
Gotcha.
if Iowa has roughly 30, last census, forgive me if I'm incorrect on the actual numbers, but let's just say 3.2 million.
Okay.
Divide that by 100, you get roughly 32,000 people in a district.
Gotcha.
Right. And so this census is important because they will reassess the sizes and the makeup of the district so that every House district will have the same number of people in it.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
And then each state Senate seat is composed of 2 House seats. So there's 50 state senators, and 100 House seats.
Do you feel like I should be embarrassed for not knowing this better?
No, it's a mixed bag.
No, yes.
It's a mixed bag because
Tell us what
we
you
have
really
a lot of people who know all this. But I have campaigned in part because I think on the belief that you should know your representative.
Sure.
You should know your representative and be able to tell me 2 or 3 things positive that they've done in the last two years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, vote for Eddie Andrews.
Right. Why not? Right.
Like, seriously. And so it's not just a statement. It's not just a philosophical statement, but I literally am knocking on every last one of the doors. I'll put that in asterisk because there's a few people that,
right,
not going to knock on their door.
Right. The ones that say, don't show up here, Eddie.
I noticed you walked right by my house.
But for the most part, I'm knocking on every single door. And I think it's important that people show up. I think it's important for people who want people to vote for them to show up. Be there. Ask questions.
So as a member of the House, like what level of changes are you there to affect, right? Like like education programs or overall, I mean, I guess it all gets lost in a big government shuffle that I don't quite understand. So like what level of things are you looking to affect change to?
Oh man.
There's a list,
really
isn't there?
So many. I have 17 planks. I won't go over all 17 tonight. We don't want to bore your audience.
Sure.
But one of the things that I talk about the most is mental health reform.
Sure.
Wow.
That's tough.
You know,
I mean, yeah.
It is tough, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
And not only speaking with other people, other families, but our family has been affected by mental health as well. And without getting into all the specifics and so on and so forth, parents, families are not prepared for this when it happens. I mean,
it's an overwhelming thing. I mean, just being in ministry, you run across people that are having serious issues, and they want help, and you want to help them. But I'm like, that is so above my pay grade. I mean, there's people I don't know how to help. There's just stuff going on.
Has it become more of an issue, or has it just being brought to light more? Right? Like, was it always an issue and we just didn't know what to call it, or didn't recognize it, or give it its own opportunity to be dealt into, or is it becoming more of a problem, like more of a concern in society?
Boy, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know it is a problem now.
Yeah.
And boy, I got to tell you, it on every level, changes need to be made. Let me just give you one scenario. Let's just say, hypothetically, you wake up one day, your 14-year-old who was pretty cool for 14 years, all of a sudden is like, wow, what's going on with that guy? Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, are you listening? And then you just realize, oh, he's not being a knucklehead right now. He's got something going on. And, and then it takes you a little while to really realize that, because you didn't know if he just had a bad day or if he, whatever.
Yeah.
And Now you know he's exhibiting an episode right now. And okay, well, let's call a psychiatrist. Okay, good. We can get you in 8 weeks.
Yeah, that is
Okay, how
true.
about that?
Yeah.
6.
Give me
maybe
some
if
medicine
someone
that'll take
cancels.
6 weeks to start working.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And or let's just say you do a shortcut. You're a parent. You can do a mandatory 72-hour, 3-day hold.
Yeah.
Either one of the local hospital chains, and boom, he's there. He's not well, and they want to send him home. But maybe he's exhibiting a violent stage at that point, and well, you can't bring him home right now because he's not. It's not safe for the rest of the family to be there, and that's, as a dad or as a mom, it's your job to maintain.
Man, what a heartbreaking
safety.
call right there, you know?
Right.
Man.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at beds. Well, there's no beds, otherwise he wouldn't be here.
Right.
Okay, how about shelters? Well, they're always full. Yes, shelters always full. Buchanan shelters mostly full. Ames. I know people who've had to drive their kid to Cedar Rapids for a few nights, just because they needed a bed for safety of their own family member, while things were waiting to open up. And so, just from that standpoint alone, changes need to be made. Let's just say there's another scenario where maybe somebody's exhibiting a dangerous episode, and now law enforcement has to be called. Well, one of the changes that I proposed is rapid response mental health units for children. So now these people who are trained in more de-escalation when it's involving a mental health issue.
Yeah.
If you think about nationally, half of all police shootings involve a mental health case.
I was just going to ask something similar
Yeah.
to that. Yeah.
And yes, you want to bring order, but it's your kid. So you're like, hey. He's just not himself. It's our kid. So don't, just can you de-escalate it rather than just try to get order and then as if it were just a thief or somebody just trying to rob your house or something.
Yeah.
So those kinds of changes we like to implement. More training on, also in schools and just there's so many elements just to that piece.
So you're talking more beds and more trained professionals.
Oh yeah,
Is that what I'm hearing?
And training.
Yeah. And training. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and resources for families, right? Like, I mean, this is, plenty of folks have gone through this, and not to say that I have not, right? But like, you get to a point you're like, I just flat out don't know what to do. I'm not walking away. I'm not bailing here. I'm in for the long haul. I don't even know what the long haul looks like, right? And so I just need somebody to help me, just to get me guided in the right place. And sometimes we're going to cross a line that I'm not equipped to handle, and that's exactly what you're talking about. And that's and actually, I kind of love what you said, like, when you talk about de-escalating some of those situations, right? That's looking at other people like you would look at your family members, right? Like where you're like, look, I know this guy. He's a little off the edge right now, but I'm not looking for punitive and punishment. I'm looking for, let's get it back down to where we can handle it and help.
It's your kid.
It's your kid, right? And if you look at everybody's kid that way, then now we got a whole family going here, right? Like we have a community going, which is what we're trying to have in the first place.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And it reminds me of at the Polk County GOP convention, which was like the last thing that happened before they shut everything
Everybody
down.
was licking the windows, and all of a sudden, that's it.
Yeah. So at the Polk County GOP convention, I gave a little talk, and one of the ladies came up to me afterwards, and she still had tears in her eyes, and she told me, she says, Eddie, I'm so glad you talked about mental health. That's my number one issue. And then she said what happens in many cases, and she says, but 4 months ago wasn't even in my top 10. And that's how mental health affects us. It's we kind of instinctively know it's a problem, but it's somebody else's problem, and then all of a sudden it happens to your nephew or to your niece, grandchild, brother, sister, cousin, and then all of a sudden, wow, it's involving your entire family, and you're just like, well, what do we do? What do we do? What do you do?
Yeah.
Because the goal is to help improve their situation, not just stop that incident, and then walk away. You went to do some long-term help. And that's what I say. I can hear all kinds of ideas of how to fix this, and it's above me. I don't know. I'm like, people come to me with like deep stuff of mental illness, and it's like they need a new transmission, and I'm the car wash guy, and I'm going, I can clean your car
That's right.
for
Your
you.
windshield looks great. I
Yeah.
just don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not that guy,
Right.
so I can't even tell you what's a good idea or a bad idea.
I think
But
that's
I
the
think
thing, though.
something.
We've talked about this on the show here recently quite a bit. Is like approaching some things with humility, right? Like if
Yeah.
you know you're the car wash guy, stay out of the transmission business. You know what I'm saying? Like
I know.
that's happened.
Right.
That's happened a lot. And once again, if we look at that's even touching on the stuff we were talking about earlier, where people are all spun up
The
for
social
whatever
media.
the
Everybody's
social
an
media
expert
stuff.
on everything.
Everybody's got this
yeah.
thing. It's like, I know the way this works. They're doing this. Like you don't actually know any of that.
That's
Be
right.
quiet, will you?
Stay in your lane.
I mean, just humble yourself and go.
Wait. So are you telling the car wash guy to stay in the car wash lane and not eventually grow? Are we not in America?
Now listen
Is
what
this
you're
not
saying,
the land
Cody.
of opportunity?
I see what you're doing. You're what's setting known as a trap.
I like the car wash.
So here's the thing: the car wash man is more than capable of learning about transmissions and helping with transmissions. But for him to do the commencement speech at Transmission University while he's the car wash man, that's not going to work. Because that takes a lot of because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
There can be more damage done on people flying in. In fact, I've had this conversation about mental health exactly with a
Okay.
couple fellas here recently, right? Where they're I was going through a situation, I was talking to them about it, and here they piping off. It's like, here's what you're gonna do, blah blah blah. I'm like, you have never had anyone with
Yeah.
this issue anywhere near you, have you? No, but it's pretty straightforward. A bibbity bibbity.
Take them
bobbity
off their
bobbity.
meds and make them play harder.
Yeah. Did you? I mean, what they need is discipline. What's wrong? Shut. You don't be quiet, will you? That's the car wash guy in the transmission lane, right?
Okay. All right.
Is that a better analogy?
All right
Or you
now.
still hate it?
We'll talk later.
the land of opportunity to not be the car wash man. That's what we're talking about.
Oh my. Point taken that we do need professionals and we do need people who have their arms wrapped around this. That's one reason why I want to lead this. Now, I have lots of things, like I told you, I've got 17 planks, but this is not just one I want to work with or get done. This is one of the ones that I want to lead. And I think you really do need somebody leading this effort to say, you know what would be nice is XYZ. Because when I talk to people and when we've gone through certain aspects of this, some of the solutions presented sound like bureaucracy. I can't say that word today.
Like a car wash
Government.
man. I hear what you're saying.
Well, but you want real solutions that help families and not just say, hey, let's add more, $1,000 to this program or $1,000
Right.
to
And
this
whitewash
program.
the problem with
Yeah.
cash and be like, this will solve it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. That's very cool. And actually, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people could get behind that and would actually like to see some real movement here.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to have a little bit of caring about it to push the movement. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I will say this too. I've had a number. Yeah. Well, let me just preface this by saying, as you guys already know, as a minister, you operate outside of politics, right?
Right.
And to some extent, whoever's at the table and they need your help, that's who you're helping, right? You don't check boxes politically. And I will say this, though, a lot of Democrats have launched onto our campaign because they know I'm going to fix this. Or certainly they have faith that I will.
Yeah.
And that's what I certainly intend to do. So we're getting lots of support on some of these ideas.
That's because they're good ideas. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we used to do as a country.
and
right? We find good ideas and people that are going to implement them and then vote for that guy.
Yeah, and in that sense, it doesn't matter. Who was that said? Oh boy, I can't think of the guy's name
Was
right
it
now.
Bon Jovi?
Pretty sure it was
It was
not.
okay.
Could have been in a song.
All right.
Pretty sure it was not.
All right. Not
But
Bon Jovi then.
It was like you can do incredible things as long as you don't care who gets the
I
credit.
think that was Barney.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Barney may have had a corollary to that.
It was
second
close.
theorem.
Yeah.
I love you. You love me.
I feel like we're a
The
happy
purple
family.
corollary.
No, I that is a familiar quote. Wasn't it like a president? Anyway, yeah.
I'm sure lots of people actually
I'm sure.
said it. But
I mean, once again, though, like solid advice, right?
Yeah,
Solid
yeah.
advice that
just
you
get
can
her done.
stand to follow, right? Like, and it doesn't really matter who said it. I can get behind it because it's a good idea.
yeah. And
I
if
don't know, was it a Democrat or Republican?
if a Republican said that and got this done, let's give them credit. If a Democrat got it done, let's give them credit,
Yeah.
right? It's all about people. It's the people business. It's
Well,
helping people business.
And I suppose that's the thing is like in the realm of politics, I think people are having a really hard time here lately, feeling like they're being forced in a cage in either direction, and as of right now, our political process doesn't look like it's getting a whole lot done either way, right? Like it just ends up being we agreed on this stimulus, right? We agreed on it 3 months ago. We got nothing, and so regular fellow like old Mike sitting here going, well, I mean, if I show up to work and don't do anything for like 3 months, they just fire me, and then that's it. I get moved on, right? And then we're not getting anything done. So is that a realistic and an honest battle that still has to be fought at the state level, or like do we feel like we can affect change in a much broader way
Oh, boy.
because it's not? You know what I'm saying? It's
So let me just say that I'm not in office yet.
got it.
Okay.
I think you're gonna be. We're good to go.
Well,
I'm gonna act like it happened.
we're
You're the transmission man.
we're calling it, man. With a lot of hard work and a lot of people helping me, I
Sure.
believe we'll get there. But I think it does happen still on a state level. I still hear that from Democrats and Republicans. They don't want somebody to say, this is what my leader says, so therefore I must do that. I think they do want people to say, you know what, I like this, but I don't like this, and just be independent and actually represent.
Yeah, what you said. You're right. Represent.
Right.
Yeah.
And be honest. Tell people what you are going to do and what you are not going to do, and then let them decide. So I can tell you that. On the other hand, I think people are, or at least a lot of people are smart enough to separate that.
Yeah.
We do have people who won't let you get past the first question, and that is the leader of either party, right? Do you support X or do you support Y? Well, miss, ma'am, sir, this is the local race, and we're working on. But I don't know. But most of the time, that kind of works, and you just start talking about local issues.
Yeah.
But there are some people that won't let you get past that, and you'll just say, you know what, we're not fixing DC, at least not in this job.
That's a good point.
Job interview.
That's a good point.
We're working on issues. But I think I'll give you one example of why I think people are separating national from local. I went to a block and it had an Eddie Andrews sign alongside a Donald Trump Pence
Yeah.
2020 sign. A little ways down the road, a Joe Biden, it was a Biden 2020 sign and an Eddie Andrews sign in the same yard.
Yeah.
About 3 blocks later, there was a Joe Jorgensen sign and an Eddie Andrews sign in the same yard. And at some point, you're just like, I don't even understand this. Just goes right along with COVID and everything else with 2020's. Like, I'm
2020,
living in a
anything can
bizarre
happen.
world.
Does not do straight party voting. I'll tell you that.
We've seen, I've seen one guy who called and says, hey, I want you to put your sign up. Do you mind if my Democrat friend is on the other sign? I'm putting 2 yard signs. Do you mind? I'm like, do I mind if my sign is up? Of course not.
No,
Right,
This is
right.
fine.
But it has left a few people scratching I went to a door today and they says, well, Eddie, I couldn't figure out if you're a Republican or Democrat. I'm like, I'm a Republican, but my first 4 endorsements were for Democrats.
Yeah.
And as of last week, yes,
Yeah.
we have now a Democrats for Eddie Andrews movement going on in Johnson and Grimes, and
Nice.
it's just all kinds of excitement going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And I think it is in part just like they said. Well, the first endorsement, I'm like, I announced on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which seems like about 100 years from now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Forget the fact that we couldn't door knock for 5 months, right?
Right.
So on that day, I got a call that says, hey, Eddie, we want to be the first people to endorse you. Is that okay? And I'm like, I've never done this before. I'm pretty sure that's okay to
Sure.
endorse
I think
me.
it's fine. Yeah.
We'll take it.
Right. And then so you start looking at their site and they've got all kinds of, remember this was caucus time, right? So
Sure.
it's like a week before caucus. And they've got all kinds of Bernie stuff on their site. I called them back. I said, I'm just double checking that you got the right Eddie Andrews.
You didn't call the wrong Eddie Andrews.
And yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, what speaks to you from your Bernie side to Eddie Andrews, who's running as a
Great
conservative,
question.
faith forward, constitutional loving,
Yeah.
flag waving kind of guy, right? So they said, well, one thing about Bernie, love him or hate him, he's been consistent for 40 years, right? And I said,
Fair.
And what I see about you, Eddie, is if you say it, you believe it. If you believe it, you'll generally say it. And I said, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I see what you're going there. We may have different policies, but
Still.
at least they see at least something in me that I'm going to say what I believe.
That's just interesting, though. I mean, that's like, I don't really care what you believe as long as you're actually going to do what you say. Because, yeah, those are two completely different worlds.
Now, most of them are not that extreme.
yeah.
But it's generally in 3 categories, right? It's either that or they've seen my work. They've seen we started Mentoromics, we did all these things, the Spanish group, or just community projects I've been involved in, or criminal justice, or something that they've seen. And yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's cool. It speaks to character.
Well, that's exactly what it speaks
Yeah,
to. It
yeah.
speaks to character, right?
Yeah.
Where you can look at a guy and go, "Look, man, how many? I've met multiple people, right? Where like they think exactly the opposite of what I think, but I respect them,
Yeah.
because I think they're honest about it,
Yeah.
right? And they don't plan on. They're not out there just trying to get people to follow
Yeah.
them blindly. They're like, "Here's what I believe. I will run this thing till the end of the road." I'm like, "Man, I wholeheartedly disagree with you, but I
Yeah.
think you're honest, and I
And
appreciate that."
I appreciate that too, and I'm actually kind of humbled by that. And I had a person, who told me that in a very, and this is a person I know. This particular person is the other people I didn't know. These are people that I had met, but this next example is a person who I've known, and they are not the same as I am politically. But they said, Eddie, I know that everything I've seen you do has been out of love and respect, and always tried to be the right decision, no matter who is pushing you, no matter who is pulling you. It's all about ultimately helping people. What is the best solution? Boom. That's it.
Yeah.
You wonder how would all the elections be different if you took out the media and the commentators whose whole job is to stir everybody up and just light fires in our yards so we can hate each other, and
Light fires.
well, I don't know. I mean,
Boy, CNN is really burning the cash now. You know what? We paid a guy to light fires. We're just done with this.
not literal fires,
I don't know. It depends.
but I mean, people they just hate each other.
Well,
when it comes closer to election time, and
See,
it's just like, come on, we're
And
we
once
used to
again,
love each other.
I think a lot of that feeds into. Look at me. Here's my daughter right now. If you guys get off that dang phone, right? But like, I think once again, it feeds into like this dystopian thought where like you get to exist in your own echo chamber, your own bubble, and then when you go outside, you're offended by everything that's not in your bubble. And like even the thing that you carry most in common is that the people that you're mad at, whether you realize it or not, are made in the image and likeness of God and have internal dignity and worth, right? And then you want to cast all that aside. Christians, you're just as guilty. You got to mirror yourself here, right? You're just as guilty of walking out the door and going, I hear what God's saying about these guys and all, but like, I don't like them. I don't like what they believe, and they don't believe what I believe, and I'm just going to be mad at them and push them off to the side. And like, it feels like it, whether it's true or not, it feels like it's gotten worse. It just feels like it's gotten worse. Like humanity itself has decided they're going to move into factions and then fight with each other. Now, it could be just a massive perception problem. It could actually not be worse. We're just being convinced it's worse. But like at the end of the day, sometimes we forget who we are. And we forget who other people are, and we forget the worth that God has bestowed upon them as being his ambassadors to the creation he's made. And whether you like the guy or not, God said ambassador. God said dignity and worth. And so like sometimes we get a little bit too high on whatever horse we walked into and forget that like God says these are the things that are true of all my children. Just be careful, Mike. Just be careful what bat you bring out that day, And so I don't know whether it's just been hitting me a little bit harder this week that it just feels like it's the chasm has gotten wider. That's
Pass
all.
the offering plate.
Yeah.
Is there one? Is there one?
We can find
the doors
one.
of the church are open.
Find one. I had this summer our good friend from Zimbabwe, who's a pastor there, living at our home, and he was our intern here. I grew up in the orphanage there. That's where we met him. We go to Zimbabwe every year, and all this stuff started spreading, the riots, and there was legitimate protests that then, after hours, different people came in, and there were like riots and fires and literal fires and all this stuff, and it was like global. It wasn't just America, because he had family members in the UK, saying that they wanted to go into Zimbabwe and knock down statues there and dig up white missionary bones and throw them in the river because they brought Jesus. They messed up our culture, and the whole time he's just looking at it going, what's wrong with you people?
That's right. What is happening?
Like, what I mean, with everybody, everybody's angry. It's like, because some of these were Christian people even, and he's just going, just stop this. He couldn't grasp what was going on. I'm trying to explain some historical context of what do I know? It was just, an interesting summer. But there's so much anger out there, which is beyond politics thing. People are mad at COVID.
Correct.
They're mad at being locked up. They're mad at their life's been disrupted. It's
And the thing is, to echo some of those comments, we do share one big blue ball that was created for us, and we can't move off of it yet. I know, with always due respect to Bezos and Elon Musk.
Yeah, he can try it first. That's
Look,
what I think.
of the 8 planets left, sorry to Pluto.
Yeah, right.
Boy, wouldn't you think God would be a little angry? He's like, I included Pluto in the list. I don't know what you guys are doing.
That was definitely a planet.
This is the good one, right?
Yeah.
So this is the good one.
Get a better telescope.
So we do have to manage to live together and try to work. We're not going to sing Kumbaya right now,
Right.
but there does have to be some sort of acknowledgement that we do have to work together on some things. Not everything, but
well,
we could.
And to sit down and have a legitimate conversation goes a
That's
long
it.
way. It's just like, I'm just a human to human. Hey, here's how I see it. How am I off? Well, here's how I see it.
Yeah.
Oh, hadn't thought of it that way.
I think what I'm in my head, what I'm hoping is like, if the Lord tarries, then people will just get tired of this, right? Because at the end of the day, like, it all seems like it's anger and fire, and like, to me, I'm just getting bored with it now. I'm just bored with it, right? Like, we're not actually talking about anything that is going to do any lasting change, anything effective. We're just trading barbed wire, and like, it's just boring now. We're not getting anything done.
That's where you have to actually listen and work toward a solution. Well, is this right? Is this right? Well, it depends on whether you're what's the solution.
Yeah.
are you making a declaration or are you trying to solve something?
Right.
If you're working together, let's sit at the table and have sessions that are worth talking about.
Yeah, and actually talk about the problems that, like, 2 layers in. Because that's actually, it's like we were talking about earlier about discernment, right? Like, I was talking to a guy somewhat last week, I think, and he was talking about healthcare. He goes, don't you think everybody should have healthcare? And I go, I absolutely do. Yeah, I think that would be great. What we're talking about is how we're going to pay for it. That's what we're talking about. That's the discussion, right? The discussion is not whether I think everybody deserves healthcare. Of course I do. I want everyone to have whatever care they need. What we're talking about as a government that collects tax money and the burden falls on them is how we're going to pay for it. Now, that's a great discussion, and I think we should have it. But, like, when you try to throw it in a humanity issue where, like, you don't care about other people, that's actually a lie. The conversation we're trying to have is, how does a government do that? Or how does a government not do that? That's a great discussion on either side. I think we should have it. But, like, at the end of the day, we end up talking about things 6 layers up, and, like, we miss the discernment part, the thing that's actually the thing that we're arguing about, And so, like, I don't know. I think I just need to take a big, deep breath and go, okay, who cares about this? Who has passion for it? Can I follow that guy into helping him do what he's been built to do?
And here's the other thing on that, and you may have already touched on this or not, I'm not sure. But it's okay to listen to somebody that you disagree with.
Right.
And I know this is not a revelation, but it is to a lot of people. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a place or something like that, and it's like, oh, Eddie, did you know? Like, and?
Yeah.
Let's listen to an idea, and I'm not intimidated by anybody, right? So that means I can listen to anybody. And if they have a point, then fine. If they don't have a point, then fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Maybe I can learn something, and maybe we can both learn something.
Yeah, and isn't that approaching some stuff with some humility and some actual strength and confidence, right? Like, I'm not intimidated by good ideas. That's a great statement. I'm not intimidated by good ideas. That's true.
and I actually feel like, as a candidate, I feel like I'm a better person, and I'm not even in office right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I've met about 10,000 new friends.
Right.
And some of my team members are here with me late at night. Thank you guys, by the way.
Yeah.
And these guys will tell you that I will be at Come and Go now. And I may not remember your name, but I'll look at you and I'm like, cul-de-sac, 4 blocks that way, left side of the street. Yeah. You had a black shirt on when I talked to you, right? Yeah. And they're like, you did. Yeah. And we talked about healthcare, and we talked about education, and the conversations are I get, but because of all the conversations, it's not just me sharing with them; it's them sharing with me, and that is powerful.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
Yeah, that's how you affect people. That's how you affect the world, right? Like, you take in someone else, and they take in you, and then we go community. Here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Now, as a pastor, you have spent your life having these conversations about Jesus with people.
Absolutely.
And now as a politician, you're talking like issues. I mean, some overlaps and stuff, and I get that. You can't separate Jesus from who you are and everything. Mm-hmm. But how is this different? I mean, it's got to be different. Is it easier to talk politics or harder?
Oh, man. There's a person who actually showed up at our church the other day, and I saw them in the parking lot. And they said, Eddie! Like, who is this person? And then ding, 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 ding. Oh, yeah, that's right. 3rd house from 86th Street, right? I got it.
Wow.
And they reviewed the conversation that we had. And initially, I've forgotten the conversation. And as we went along about the conversation, they reminded us that we had talked about our favorite Bible verses. Mm. And in my head, I'm trying to figure out how I got from, hi, my name is Eddie Andrews, I'm running for office, to favorite Bible verses. But this happens all the time, people, we just talk about whatever people need to talk about that day. That's generally how it works. And I don't know how we got to favorite Bible verses.
It's because you can smell Jesus on people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
can smell it on them. You're like, that guy loves Jesus.
I
just know it.
I actually talked to one group, and I won't say who they are because you may know this group, but I actually talked to this group. God is my witness. There was a team of them, and they just wanted to know more about my candidacy, and of course I wanted to know them to know more about my candidacy. And about a few questions in, they say, tell me about your testimony. I'm like, boy, what a
Yeah, right
never
at it.
been asked that question before in a
campaign.
in potential endorsement interview. And I just went right on. And then a couple questions later, I thought we had moved on, and apparently some guy must have been checking Google, and
Yeah.
So he goes, what about this? And I'm telling you, we spent 45 minutes talking scripture in a political endorsement
Yeah.
until they ran out of questions to ask, and it was just amazing. So for things like that, it's just like, if those things alone were worth running,
Yeah.
maybe it is.
Yeah.
So I don't think those are the only things. Let me
Right,
just point
right,
that out.
Right.
You do want to win,
That's right.
but I think
We need more of an opportunity.
And then there's that.
Yeah.
as people of God, you should be a person of God wherever and however and
Right.
whenever you show up somewhere. You're not divorcing yourself of, I can talk about healthcare, but now, oh no, we can't talk about God because, we don't want to offend
Well, that's the
anybody.
thing is, like, a lot of
It's who I am.
That's exactly right. A lot of that stuff feeds into policies and confidence and whatever. Like all people have worth, and we're gonna fight for that, right?
And that's why I want to run. I mean, see, people. One of the things that I did struggle with when I felt led to run, and I'll just say it that way. When I felt led to run, was you don't want to offend 30 or 40% of your potential audience.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a real statement. And I struggled with that. I prayed about it a lot. How do you handle these situations? And at some point, the light bulb came on, and it just said, well, what do you think you've been doing for the last, zillion years?
Yeah, right.
Like, just keep doing what you're doing, helping
Yeah.
people, working with people, solving problems.
Yeah.
That's it. Obviously, you have the spiritual element that you deal with people, but everything else is pretty much the same. You listen, you hear, discern what the real problem is, and solve problems, make relevant solutions.
Now, man, if I went to my wife and said, "Dear love of my life, I'm thinking
Okay.
about running for office," I'd probably have 2 broken legs, and
Wow.
I mean, she
Cheryl go rights for the violence.
she
huh?
would she would go, she
Okay,
would
good
just,
to know.
and then she'd light me on fire.
No Girl Scout cookies at the Hudson House.
I'm glad you're saying that with
Because
a
that
smile.
No, she would not do that. But honestly, that's pretty tough on a family, because if you have opposition,
Yeah.
people, they're just not nice these days. They can't just say, "I'm not going to vote for you."
Even for the good attention, though, every story that Eddie has told so far, people are like, "Hey, Eddie,
Yeah,
I'm super
right.
excited to see him." And like, "We just trying to get peanut butter. Calm down. I just want to go to the store
Right.
and not have the hands waving or whatever."
Well, look, I'm excited. I'm a passionate guy, when it comes to serving people. But to your point, Pastor Hudson, so, man, you are right on.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should say this or not. I might get in trouble.
Yeah, don't get. I don't want you
get
to
in
have broken
trouble.
legs.
Or you could tell it. I mean, either way. Dan's kind of a daisy.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because, well, for a number of reasons. Just a number of reasons.
Well, you want to you want to isolate them. You want to protect them, and
You do.
You can't help it if other people bring them in.
And as a dad and as a husband and as a father, you want to protect your family, and you want the best for them.
And you want them around. But you want to protect
Yes.
them.
Yeah, you want to stay married.
That's right. You want them around. Right, yeah.
Oh.
So Yeah, it's tough. It's tough on, and especially I'm just gonna say this, and I'm gonna right back off. But especially in my wife's case, because she's already in the public's eye,
Yeah.
and so to have this other guy running, and now she's got to answer questions for this guy.
Yeah,
Like, dude,
Yeah, well, I saw people do that every once in a while in interviews. They're like, well, what do you think about what's going on with this guy? I'm like, hey, man, this is my press conference. What? You know what I'm saying? Like,
let's come back this way.
Seriously. You're making me feel about this big right now. You know what I'm saying? You come here and ask me about other people. That's hard to take in. That's the thing, is like the thing that I'm always impressed with is like, I would have no tolerance for some of the questions you get asked, right? Or some of the questions that people ask. Like, you're just sitting there looking, I'm like, I mean, I'm going to try to answer this in the most coherent way I can, but that was the worst question I've ever heard, But you can't say that. You're like, that's a good point. Let's talk through that in a minute. I'm like, boy, that's dumb, So, I mean, I'm happy for your patience.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to rephrase that question.
Yeah.
Well, because that was dumb.
I get a lot of questions though, and I think most of them are really good. Because the questions that people ask me are what's on their mind. And so sometimes I actually turn it around and ask them, I said, look, if you were legislator for a day, what would you do?
Upgrade the toilet paper. It's a single ply at
You
the
would what?
Capitol, and it's bad.
What?
They buy the cheapest toilet paper at that Capitol. No good.
Okay, so
That's what I would do. Oh, you were
Mike's got a
asking me.
platform
you
now.
You're talking about a theoretical guy, not
No,
me.
no,
Okay,
no,
I hear what you're saying.
since you answered,
Mike's on the green party.
look, we already know it's Cottonelle purple
No,
for
yes,
us.
yes. Now we're talking. Make the changes.
None of that. Not even Cottonelle blue. It's Cottonelle purple. That's it, bud.
Done and done. Not for those guys on septic, but all you regular city water boys, get it.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's way too much fun.
Well, we've been talking to Eddie Andrews. He is running for the House in District
39.
I was going to say 39.
That's Johnston.
That's Johnston. That's right
That's
here.
Grimes.
That is Johnston.
That's Urbandale
Grimes,
Precinct 4.
Urbandale Precinct 4. And
That's Jefferson Township.
Jefferson Township.
And
Yeah.
a few blocks of Granger.
And you got to have those few blocks of Granger just to give the place
That's right.
spice. You know
It's
what I'm
good
saying?
thing
Look,
They
it
cut
might
that
come
up.
down to those 3 blocks of Granger. We're not going to
Granger's
leave
huge.
Granger
I'm
out.
glad they cut that up.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Getting out of hand, really. Anyway, so anyway, we've actually had a great time talking with you, Eddie.
Thank you.
I'm excited for your campaign. I'm excited for the things that you're. How can I say that? Because it's all the stuff we were just talking about, like the person that you are that's running, right?
Thank you,
like,
sir.
apart from the parties and the whatever, like the person that's running is, I think, a person that a lot of people can get behind. So I'm very excited to see how this turns
Yeah.
out. I think it sounds great.
Are we
That's been
given
a pleasure.
a Life from the Path endorsement?
Well, here's the thing. If it meant anything to anyone, we certainly would.
We'll have to have a vote.
But it's like giving someone a big bag of poop, right? They're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with
But
this.
Life from the Path. All right.
If it's an endorsement and 5 people listen to you,
Yeah, right.
I'm all for that.
And people mostly do what we say. So
Okay, you ready? We're gonna do a couple.
Pastor.
We're gonna do a couple rounds of advice, and then we're gonna probably call it a night.
yeah, that's
Okay.
the most important part of the evening, right here.
Okay, here we
Every
go.
week.
It's advice time. Ready? Dear Live from the Path, I have a serious issue with my best girlfriend.
What? Best girlfriend?
Yeah, we're
Did
one
it say
sentence in,
best?
Dan. Yeah, you whole fellas. You
I'm
have
sorry.
to
I'm just
say
a
it.
listener. I like to hear. I want to process this
All right,
correctly.
take the letter in its entirety. Here we go. I have a serious issue with my best girlfriend. We make plans together, adult plans, and then at the last minute, her kids drop the young grandkids off for her to babysit, curtailing any plans we have together. Okay, so if this is in a more realm.
I was going a whole different
Yeah,
direction.
it's
there.
two
Okay.
older gals, and this is her girlfriend, like her best friend, right? Just a lady. Okay,
yeah.
here we go.
I was on a 24-year-old
Got it.
dude.
No,
so, okay.
no. So they say, the past few times we have changed our plans to a kids activity. I have an extremely busy client load, and I'm losing income by accommodating my friend's time constraints, which revolve around making her husband's lunch and dinner. Although I'm single now, I'm a widow, I do understand why she has her priorities. If her grandkids are there when we have plans, she asks me to pick them up fast food on the way over, on my dime. Boy, this is good. This is awesome. I have kids and grandkids myself, and they are very important to me. I'm tired of being held hostage by her adult children who I feel are using her and taking advantage of the drop-in daycare with Nana. How can I talk to her about our time being important too? I have intentionally not made plans with my grandkids if she and I have plans, and I would love some reciprocity. Nailed it. From thrown under the bus. Okay, there's a lot of windbagging going on there. So here's what I think.
I missed the whole thing. I mean, yeah.
I think the whole gist of it is there's two older gals, and one of them feels like the other one is getting taken advantage of by her kids because they keep dropping the grandkids off at Nana's house all the time, and so Nana is having to have to cancel plans with the gal that's writing because she's always got to deal with the grandkids that keep getting dropped off, and frankly the gal's getting tired of it. She feels like it's not fair. And that she should have some girl time with this gal, and that she's basically getting beat down.
She wants to go out and have tea.
She wants to go out and have tea.
But what's about the clients?
She's busy. She's a career lady. I think she threw that in there to realize I'm busy too. She also said I have grandkids of my own, and I'm not allowing this. That's basically what she's saying. Is like I have the same situation. I have grandkids and family, and I'm not allowing them to push me around like this.
She doesn't have the power to say no. She's wanting her friend to say no to her daughter.
Correct. And she needs some advice on how to approach that conversation.
Does the friend want to say no? Like, does she feel like she's imposed? I think the writer assumes that the other lady is being put upon.
That's correct. I agree.
And that's where the conversation starts. The other lady may just feel like, oh my goodness, I want to see my grandkids every 3 seconds.
Yeah, I think this is fun.
We don't know. That's start a conversation.
And it's probably a good thought, because like if you have it just like that, if the woman is not being imposed upon, or she doesn't feel like it's being imposed, now the lady that's writing has a bit of a problem, right? Because now she feels like she's catching the shade because this woman is always choosing her grandkids first, and she's not very happy about it. And so now she has to readjust her expectations here and go, well, I mean, everybody gets to make their own choices, right? I mean, it might sound harsh, but you might have to find a circle of friends, right? Other people to have tea with. We've talked about this within marriages, and we talk about this within friendships. There's not just one person that is built to carry your burdens and solely, right? It's too much. It's too much for one person to carry. They can't control your happiness based on the actions of one person. It's unfair for your wife. It's unfair for your husband. And it's unfair for your friend. Right? It's why we have Jesus to carry burdens, and why we have a community of people, because not one person is built to carry all the implications and load that life in a sinful, cracked world produces. And so, like, once again, if you are saying, I want to have tea with Edna, but Edna keeps choosing her grandkids and she's being a jerk to me. Well, that's not completely true. You should have tea with other people. you should give Edna the space that she needs to live her life and deal with her family, and invite her to tea as often as you can, and hope she agrees. Right? That's humble living. That's not do what I want you to do, Edna, otherwise I'm going to be upset at you. That seems really unfair. Okay.
Yeah. Because my answer could change in 4 to 6 weeks when I become a grandfather, because I'm pretty sure everybody's going to go to the back seat.
Right.
I mean, I'll be like, oh, look at that. I guess I have a different opportunity. You're on your own for tea.
Can't talk now, maybe.
But I would say, okay, so have the conversation, and if she says no, then you have to leave it. I mean, go ahead and broach it. Say, hey, don't you think you're being taken advantage of? No. Oh, okay.
Okay, great. And once again, isn't this all the thing we've been talking about? Yeah. Have a conversation with somebody. Yeah. Say, hey, what do you think of this?
Don't be judgmental or demeaning. Just say, hey, don't you think this is what I think? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really think so, because I love my kids.
Now, granted, there's sometimes, right, I mean, you ran into fellas in the past where you say, hey, man, don't you think the things that you're doing are counterproductive to either your marriage or your life or whatever? And they're like,
sure.
No, I think it's fine. And then you double down and go, look, I brought this to your attention because it is counterproductive to your marriage. Like, we need to talk about this. This is not one of those situations. This is just, I want to have some friend time, and she's struggling to get there. A simple conversation between some people ought to at least get us on the even, right?
Does she have more than one friend?
It doesn't sound like it, does it?
Well, this is her best friend.
Yeah, this is her best girlfriend.
Which means she doesn't have any others.
That's true. That's true. I stopped having a best friend in like 3rd grade.
Nobody likes me. I tell them how to live their life.
All my friends are just on equal pairing, right? I mean,
yeah, right.
So, okay. So let's see what Secular has to say. Secular says, if this happened occasionally, I would advise you to cut your friend some slack. However, because this happens often, tell her your dates with her are carefully scheduled, and when she changes them at the last minute, it has a negative impact on you economically. Point out that when you make dates with her, you let your children know they will have to arrange for another babysitter unless it is an emergency. And if the last-minute changes continue, see her less often and arrange to socialize with other friends who appreciate your situation. So all the things she said are true. She just seemed to say it with two triangles coming off her hips, like with a little sass. That was unnecessary. You know what I'm saying?
Triangles.
Yeah. Throw the triangles out. You don't get that at your house?
Yeah.
You get the triangles? People don't like it. All the ladies at my house do it. And I say,
Oh.
well, you got the triangles out. That's
No,
not
we,
a good
we
way.
Get, we get the neck.
Oh.
We get the neck and the finger, dude.
Yeah. Nope, we go for the straight triangle. Even
Yeah.
the one triangle is
Trust
not
me,
great.
You do not want the neck.
No, I don't want it. I agree. It sounds hard to deal with. Okay, one more. Ready? Dear, live from the path. I'm about to be 22. I've been talking to a man around my age for almost 6 months now. He tells me how special I am and how much I mean to him, but says he isn't ready for a relationship. Ooh. We go on dates and do not have relations with other people. He says putting a quotes title on us will give him accountability he doesn't want. Whoa. This is not going to be a very long letter. He claims to be over his ex, but he often mentions her. I know he was still conversing with her when we first started talking, but he lied about it. I'm not rushing a relationship because I know it takes time to get to know someone, but I want to know if he can see a future with me, and if that is a question he will not answer. I have attachment issues and don't want to let him go, but I can't help but feel as if I'm not good enough for him, which he says I'm not. Should I move on or wait and see what the future holds?
Wait. He says she's not?
Oh, she says, I can't help but feel as if I'm not good enough for him, which he says is not the case. He says,
Oh.
yes, you're
Yeah.
good enough for
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
So her question was, should I move on or wait and see what the future holds? I'm ready to answer. You should drop him right now. He's no good for you. I think he's a young man, and he may straighten his ways out in his early 30s maybe, but not for you,
Yeah.
and not right now.
Yeah.
It's time for him to go.
Yeah, this is a Jerry Springer waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you see it. He doesn't want any kind of commitment. And it's just like, dude, he's not grown up enough, right?
No,
Yeah.
we
Doesn't
date
sound like
men.
it.
That's who we date, ladies. We date men, and we hold them to a high standard because God holds them to a high standard, and so do you. And we don't accept less because when we accept less, then we get a bunch of undateable men. And we don't need that. You don't want that for another 50 years of your life. You don't want that man raising kids, right? You need a man that you can count on, that values you, and his life is spent adding to you, not taking from you. And if you spend your life adding to him, then you, sir, got yourself a marriage, right? If each person in that marriage spends their life adding to the other, then both are taken care of, both are loved, and both will flourish. If you sitting on the coattails of a man that can't seem to get his act together, won't commit to you, that's the least we're asking of him to do, is to commit and say, I just want to be with you, right? That's the smallest thing that we're asking. And he's like, I'm not going to do it. He's gone right now. Not one tear, just gone. And granted, I usually land pretty hard on guys on this, and I would love to talk to him. I think him and I would have some great things to discuss, but he's not date worthy right now at all. I think he can go, and you can do it politely, but he can go. Dan, disagreement.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Honestly, he is still attached, or at least wants to be, to his ex, and he's still working that out.
Which is fine. We're
And
not saying
that's
there's anything
fine.
wrong with that.
Yep, that's
you
just life.
can't date another lady
Yeah.
until you get that straightened up.
You just need to cut that off and give him a chance to say, oh wait, no, if it's a dream of someone else or you, I'll take you, but you've got to cut it. I mean, this can't be.
Yeah.
You can't keep dragging it on. So some guys just need that. You have to be forced into a choice. You know, they don't realize what they have until they're like, oh, I could lose this.
Yeah.
I mean, don't like make a threat, but just say here's what it is. Just I'm out if you're not in.
Yeah, I think we as a society, especially as a Christian boys, look, we expect a lot out of our men because God does,
Mhm.
right? And so God puts a burden of that relationship, and He holds the man accountable. He doesn't say the man is the man in charge and he gets to rule the roost. But when there's something going on within a relationship or within a marriage, God's going to come looking for Adam. That's the guy He's going to hold accountable for the contract. And so if you're going to saddle yourself up or yoke yourself up to a dude, just make sure he's up to the task. So, I think it's time for you to bail right now. Okay, let's see what Secular's answer is. Secular says, stop allowing your insecurity issues to affect your common sense. You are both young, and your relationship has been going on for only 6 months. Is 22 young to be married? I guess I don't remember when I got married.
I was married. Look, we were way married by 22.
By 22?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now hold on. Is the thing that I'm saying wrong? Right?
What?
Like when we're talking about even a guy in his early 20s, am I expecting too much out of a man in his early 20s?
Are we on another one or are we on the same one?
We're on this one. We're talking about the guy that won't commit to his woman and won't.
So, I guess
You spaced
So
out
I
while
do,
was
I do a
talking,
lot of
didn't you?
mentoring.
I
We're
understand.
talking, maybe not mentoring to some of these kids, but like I kind of have a rant, and I don't want to start ranting right now.
Sure.
But I'll just go back to what I did. Like I was like, let's move this date up.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
It's like Betty. The funny thing about us, the first memory of us was arguing. We were debating, like as kids. Like, and this, by the way, has never stopped.
Oh, sure.
But I was like, I see who I want. We've been dating since like 16, 17.
Yeah.
High school sweetheart. Like, what am I gonna wait till I'm 30 for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is who I want.
Yep.
And I didn't realize until like later that I had my granddad didn't come to my wedding because we were too young.
Oh.
But I didn't know anything about that until my
Oops.
brother spilled the beans like 30 years later. It's like, you remember when granddaddy didn't come to your wedding? Like, what?
What?
That's why?
Grandpapa, why?
I thought he was stuck. He thought he was sick or something. But
Oops.
But I was 18,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm grown. I'm sorry. I think I was 19.
Yeah.
I think now that I think about it. Yeah, I was 19. I was a sophomore in college. I figured that, I'm poor. I can, but we were managing through college. I'm like, I'm gonna marry this
Yeah.
girl.
This is the woman. This is the one
This
I
is
want.
it. Why in the world? And besides, why would I wait for her to beat some 6'5" football player?
That's right.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
got her fooled right now. Let's fire this up.
So,
That's
that was
what
it.
I was 21. My wife was 19, and we were like same thing. It was just like, well, let's just get this life started. I mean, if we're gonna be it, let's go ahead and get this going. And,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay. Secular says, what was that? Okay. Stop allowing your insecurity issues to affect your common sense. You're both young, and your relationship has been going on for only 6 months. That's true. We're getting wound up over a 6-month relationship
Okay.
here.
All right.
He has been honest
I'll
by
back up a
admitting
little bit.
he has been honest by admitting he isn't ready for a relationship or the titles that go with one. He may not answer your questions about a future because he doesn't know the answer, so stop pushing him. He may be more focused on work at this point than romance, and frankly, so should you be. If nothing has changed in another 6 months, consider dating others then. Wow, she was way more lax on him than I'd have been.
Well, okay, so the 6 months part, it sounds like they are an item, but
But he doesn't
not
want to.
a serious item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take back a little bit.
Well, here's the thing, though.
know.
It depends on. It really depends on what kind of item. I have a hard time giving fellas a little bit of rope because they'll take all of it, right? And so you're like, hey, it's okay to like take a girl's attention, take a woman's attention and her thoughts. I mean, if you've had a wife or a girlfriend for any amount of time, you know that for every 2 thoughts you have, they have 1,000. And it's always running in there, and it's always thinking. And so when you say, look, she is taking up my thoughts or my effort, you're taking up 1,000 times more from that from her. So realize what you're taking, right? And so if you're not serious about this thing, or you don't plan on riding this thing out, I think you need to tell her, and I think you need to tell her right now. I think that's really unfair of you to play around in that area.
So I'm just going to go back a little bit. So if it's only been a few months, I'm not sure that a person should be ready to commit for
Do you think,
marriage
well,
necessarily.
I hear what you're saying. Do you feel
At-
like at least you will know after 6 months whether it's a marriage avenue?
Well, like in my case, like I said, I knew, but I dated my wife. in high school,
Yeah.
and I had known her. It's like when you known somebody long enough that you don't remember meeting them because you were 13 or 12 or 11, right? So I kind of had her in my background for a long time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite the same thing. But if you're talking about somebody who you just met,
6 months is too early to give it the quick.
I don't know.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll back it down on being so hard on the man. But if this continues on by a year, now we can bring the heavy.
Yeah, I think as you get closer, make a decision.
Yeah. Okay, good. We're on the same page. We're just
Yeah.
going to move the time frame out a little bit.
Yeah.
Old Mike was too heavy on him. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry you don't have your life together and you're a flim-flam artist. Apologies. I'll never meet him personally.
Oh, boy.
That's endorsed only by Mike. Those are my words.
So, do we have the disclaimer that this is 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Advice? This is not.
Yeah. This is not days worth of, or, you had a conglomerate together and we thought about the best answer. It's just whatever's coming out of the mouth right now.
Nobody's going to hold us to this.
Absolutely.
No.
not.
There's no legal requirement.
Zero accountability here.
Right.
Yeah, you can just spurt it. All right, you've been listening to Live from the Path on livefromthepath.org. Thank you very much for joining us, Eddie Andrews. We're very excited for your upcoming election. I feel like you got this in the bag. Now here's the deal: if it, can I put my sign in your yard? Does people ever ask you that? Because you're out trying to put signs in other people's yard.
What is your sign?
It just says my name. Mike is okay. It doesn't even say good or bad. Just
Vice
says,
versa.
Says Mike
Let's
is
just
okay.
Let us exchange.
We should exchange signs.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, done. My sign's not going to do you any good.
Yeah. His sign's in a whole different district.
Yeah, I'm way south of here. I don't actually live in Johnston, but
So what you do is you put one of our little QR codes on your sign, and then that way anybody who walks by will click on that, and then they can donate.
so you're proposing to steal my sign with your QR code?
Did I say steal,
No,
or did we say
I
trade?
phrased it that way.
I'm pretty sure we didn't say steal.
Okay, I got it. Okay, not steal.
I'm good with the trade.
Okay, we're trade. We're doing a sign exchange. Anyway,
Barter.
make sure you get out and vote. Now listen, we're not going to get on the soapbox here, but listen, we operate in a country that's built on personal liberties and personal freedoms that is not available to everyone in this world, and so you really need to take advantage of it. You really need to get out there and vote. And I'd prefer if you voted for Eddie. But either way, you need to be out and voting for your local, your government officials, your state officials, your country officials. This is your job. We don't ask that much of you, except to just say, "Here's what I think," and I don't think that's too much to ask. And so, you need to be out there and voting, and it's coming right up on you. So, thank you for listening to Live from the Path. You're going to catch the clips on the YouTube, probably to Facebook. We'll see when it comes out. And what does Ben always say? Be faithful in the means, and God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.